Okay, good day, everyone. This is the course I promised us. So, I'll just dive straight into the class because I want it to be a very short class. So, in the last class, we talked about the last class we talked about SQL, which is quite simple the last time we met. So today we will just continue on the same frequency. So I'll try to explain the concept of SQL, how to create a table and stuff like that. So for all that did not join the call, not join the meeting yesterday or the last class we had, and you were not able to watch the recording, so I'll try to give a recap of what we did and then so all of us can be on the same frequency before we move on to the next aspect. Okay, so yeah, let's continue. So we're seeing something about DBMS, that's database management system, the last time, and I was saying why we had a lot of DBMS, why we need to use DBMS. So let me just recap. DBMS basically they are apps that we use to query SQL. SQL codes they are being stored in the cloud, and then they ensure better security. They enhance better security. They enhance they they allow you to store data in trillions, in billions. So there's no limit to data that can be stored. So that's why it is most preferred in this big company. So as a data analyst, it's expected for you to know how to query this language, right? So we now have different type of TPMS. We have the Oracle, we have the MySQL, we have SQL Server, we have SS what do they call it? We have BigQuery. We have quite a number of them. But in this particular training session, we'll be looking at MySQL. So when you launch the MySQL, the first thing you see this query. Then at the left hand side, you see we have our schema here, we have our um, information tab here. But basically, in this information tab, when I actually create my table, we will be seeing the columns header here. So we also have our output here, then we have our query here. Basically, that is the interface of SQL. So now let's try to do something. SQL is more like an Excel, and if you understand Excel, the knowledge is transferable, so you can easily understand SQL. So the first thing we want to do here is we have different keywords actually that are used to learn and to querying SQL codes. So example of keywords are we have something like select, we have we have where, we have and, we have or, we have limit, we have case. We have quite a number of them, but to mention just a few. So you can see this thing is actually giving me a translation barrier that is SQL does not recognize this code. And I'm not trying to write a code, I'm just trying to explain these are keywords. So we need to comment it out that okay, SQL, you need to know that this particular line of code is not a code but a comment. So in the front of this thing, I can just add my hashtag there. So once I add my hashtag, can you see the cancellation sign as left? Can you see the cancellation sign as list, which is quite good. So now these are keywords. So the first thing is we need to do is we want to create a table. So what is a table? A table is just like what we have been interacting with in Excel. That is the columns header and the rows. right? So you want to create something like that. So let me try to open my Excel so you can actually see. Let's open this file. And let's say this is a table. This is quite one about a table. This is more table. You have our country as a column header, population as a column header, organization as a column header, and gender as a column header. And we have all of these as a values inside this column. So how do you calculate or how do we prepare a table like this, just like this in the SQL? So the first thing you want to do is, what are you trying to do? I'm trying to create a table. You write your create. So I told us that there are certain words that are keywords. So the best way to recognize the starting word and the keywords are any word that you write that mostly in other color, they are keywords. So you can see this crate now. When I write something like crate, that this is a keyword. But when I write something like water, look at this. It is in color black, right? So this is not water is not a keyword. So another thing that makes you look like a professional or one of the most preferred way of writing SQL code is that whenever you have your keyword, you want to write it in capital letter. So actually, SQL is not case sensitive, but you need to write it in capital letter. So we have our create. What are we trying to create? We are trying to create what a table. So because this particular table looks like a country table, so let's just call it country. So the name of the table should be what? Should be country. So that's the first thing basically. Then you open your bracket. So the next thing is inside this particular table, what are the values inside? Before you can write the values, Before you can write the values, you have to write the column header, right? So let me just copy the column header so I will take a lot of time here. So we have the column header, right? So we want to write the column header. So let me just press start. So my work will be neater. So we have the country, we have population, we have organization, we have gender. Let me just change this one. So you have gender. So the next thing is you want to know, like I think I've explained what data types are, but in SQL it's quite a bit different. Let me just try to explain that one very quickly because I actually explained it in the last class that we had. So data types. So we have a number of data types also in SQL. So the first thing is decimal. Let's look at decimal. So and when we are talking about decimal, the example of decimal number is 43.80. So this is a two decimal number. So in SQL we call it decimal instead of floats. Another one we have something like int that the full meaning is what is integer, which represents the whole number. So now let's say you are trying to say something like 43,000. That's the whole number. You are trying to say something like 87,590. That's why there is no decimal point. That's the whole number. So we classify all these as points. What about something like the alphabetical letters, the alphabeticals, what do we classify them as? We call them VACA. Now let's say sheet 2, for example. Uh, So how many letters was does Shito has? Shito has what? 6 letters word. So let's say Nigeria, for example. What's the variable characteristic of this of Nigeria? One, two, three, four, five, six, seven. That's seven, right? So basically that's what VACA means. So we have quite a number of them, but let's just stick to this basic one. So we also have dates. Okay, I think that will be the last one I'm explaining. We also have dates. Now, this country, looking at this country, with the explanation I just made now, all this one, what would be the data type of country? Obviously, these alphabeticals. The same thing with Nigeria. So America is actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Why Nigeria is also 7. Well, I'm expecting there will be some country like South Africa that has more than 7 letters. So you just want to write VACA. Obviously, that's the what do you call it? That's the data type. But inside this bracket, will I write 7? Yes, you can. If you're expecting all the country that will be under that column to be 7 data source. But in this case, I want to play it safe. So I know I can write something like South Africa that has more than 7 data source. So I just want to write any number. If I'm expecting my country, any country that we here that do not have more than 20 letters worth. So you have your comma. You have your comma because you add your comma because that's the first column. So the population also, looking at this population, we have numbers, all numbers, right? So that's you want to write things, right? So let's just write things. I and T, comma. What about your organization? We have Techno and Tesla. That's also VACA. You can just write something like VACA. Then we have 40. I'm expecting we should not have more than 40 letters word. If that is too much, you can change it to whatever one you want. Or if it's too small, you can change it. So let's just say 25. Let's be realistic. So you also have gender. So in this particular gender, you can see our gender, the values under our gender is 5 and 2. That is in America, we have almost 5 up gender. I don't know how to, but this is just a simulation. So in Nigeria, you only have two approved gender. So so you want to write something like gender. So that's number, right? And it is all number. So you want to write it. So whenever you are done with your calculation, or what with your query, you want to end it with a semicolon. So let me close the bracket I've opened here. Now I opened the bracket here, so let me close it here. I can just move to the next line, close my bracket. I'm done with my query, but I want to make it professional. I have to add my semicolon. So now let's run this. It is showing that no database selected. Okay, I've not selected any database. So let's just select this one. I can double click on this one. So can you see it is ticker now? So let's run it again. So can you see we have a green tab now? That means it's running. So to actually see what I've done, so I'll just type something like select star. This actually means select everything from what table? What's the name of the table? I'm trying to select from. I'm trying to select from the country table. So because I'm done with my query now, so I'll just do Control Enter. I see. Everything I've created in this video is just the column header. Now let's try to let me just write something like this. Then, and let's try to insert values into our table. Okay. So now, what do you want to do? Because it is easy, I want to insert all these value inside my table. So you can just do something like this. You can just write something like this. So I can actually resize this one. Let's try to resize. Let's reduce the size of this one. So we can do something like insert into what's the name of the table? The name of the table is what country. Let me just call it. Right. So what are we trying to add? You are trying to add some values, right? So you can just write something like values. Now, what are the values? So we have those two rows here. Let me just copy it. They're actually meant to type it, right? So let me just copy it there. So we have our values. So America, right? Let's start with open brackets. America is a text, and we know this in Excel that whenever we have a text, we have to support it, we have to surround it with a quotation mark, right? So we want to surround America with a quotation mark, like something like this, because it's a text, right? So America, the text, add your comma. 40,000 is a whole number, so we don't need to surround it with 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 quotation mark. Tesla is a text, so we need to surround it with quotation mark, comma, then price does not need that. So because that's the first row, you need to add your comma. You need to do the same format to you need to add the same format to the second one. We have Nigeria here. And 370,000 does not need any. So we have our technology. Now that we are done, because we only need two lines of code and two lines or two rows of data. So we can just end our data results with semicolon. Then we run this. It's giving me that my error, there's an error in my SQL syntax. Actually, after this techno, I'm actually supposed to add a comma. So there should not be any error. Let me run it. I can just use my keyboard shortcut instead of highlighting Control Enter. It is now running. You actually see everything I've done, so I can just copy this code. Then we run it now. Now select everything from this table. Now, so let me just select everything from that table. Think country table already exists. Okay, don't know why it's not running. Let's try to run it again. Control, enter. Okay, it's running now. Don't know why it's not running the right time. Let's continue. So we can see what we have done here. These are just the magic. So we have our America, Nigeria, 40,000, 40,000, Tesla, then the 5, 2. So basically, these are the things we add in our Excel, and we have just created the same thing. So to make the learning easier, I'll just import one of the data in I have on my system already. That's complaint.csv, right? So just give me a minute. Okay, let's continue. So I have a CSV file. I'll be sending it to us on my on my laptop. So how do I import this CSV file into my SQL? So the first thing is in this database that I'm using. So you can just let's restart this one. So I can just click on this table. Right click on this table. Right. Once you right click on this table, you see something like table data import wizard. So click on that. So it is already choosing it, but in case you want to choose it, you have to go to where your file is. So go to your desktop. My data is in my desktop. And I can see it here, company.csv. Right. I want to click on open. Oh, sorry, I have not picked it. Then open. So the next thing is okay. So I think I need to create a database actually instead of using the system database. Let me just create a new database. I should have done this before. So to use it, we need to double click on it, and you can see it's already bold. Let me try to run everything out on this one again. So let's refresh. Let's look at the table. So to look at the table, let's continue. So now on this table, let's try to everything is just the only difference is that we create a new database. There's no difference. And let's try to do what we were trying to do the other time. Right click on your table, table data import wizard. Click on your file. I think I've showed you how to click on your file. Then next thing is click on next. Yeah, you don't need to change anything here. Instead, use existing table. Yes, this table, this country table. Use that country table. So you don't need to change anything here. Just keep pressing next. Then next also. It is already important to actually see how it is going. You can just click on show log. So it is actually telling us that it's important file. So in case you don't want to see it, you can just hide it. So if you want to see the process, these are the process. But I'll just hide it and let it create. So it actually take a while, but this is just 1,000 files. So I'm expecting it to be done in 30%. So it actually depends on your laptop, right? How fast or how big your laptop is. So now the next one is you want to click on next and click on finish. So if I actually run this one, now you see we have a new table here, which is what I've imported um from my computer, from my desktop. So to actually see what the tables or the values inside this content table. So you can see we have three icons in front of it. So you want to click the one that looks like a table. Right? So if you look at it here, so these are the values I've imported from my computer. Can you see? So this is what we'll be using to explain the next concept in SQL. So let's just go back to the file I was using. Okay, now. Okay, so now let's continue. So learning the basic keyword, that's basically what we want to do. Our basic keywords are select, from, where, limit, and other by. So where do we use this particular select? So the first thing is the table we are using is company because that contains a larger amount of data. So you want to say, I want to select, I want to see everything in this particular table, right? So the first thing is select. So because select, we actually know that select is a keyword. So I want to write it in capital letter one. Select everything from what's the name of my company of my table company. So but let's look at this one. When he wants to show it, he said country dot something that is the name of the database dot the name of the table. So let me just copy this one. This is the name of our table insert. So that is country database company table, right? Basically, that's what we need. So I can just run it like this. I don't know why that one is showing. And this one is open. Okay. I'm not everything. Okay, so the next thing is let's select start from country from company. At least I want to see everything, every information present in this particular company data, company table. I want to see everything. So, but what if you don't want to see anything? I'm just interested in the first name and the last name. So we just call out the name of the table name, the column name. So let's say I'm interested in first name. I'm interested in first name and last name. So because I'm expecting only this particular column, so I can just run this one also. So can you see? I'm only I'm it's only returning the first name and the last name, right? So let's say I'm interested in ID, right? So ID, I need this three. So I can just run it. So can you see? I have my ID, first name, last name. But let's say I'm interested in all the columns present. I can just do star instead of writing the names of the columns one by one. I can just do star, then click on this one. Then I see everything: ID, first name, last name, email, gender, and company. Now this will be an assignment for you. So let's say I want to retrieve only the company. What would be how would I go about that? So it is very easy. I think I'll be the one that will even skip up again. So if you just write your company, the name of the stuff you are interested in. That's the column you are interested in. Then control enter. Can you see we have our company name here? So that's the basic code. That's the function of this particular select and from. Then I just go back to writing to selecting everything. So let's go back to selecting everything. Can you see we have everything here again? So now we have another keyword. So, let's learn another keyword. So we have another keyword called where. So what's the function of where? So I'll just use a use case. So that would be sorry, I had internet glitch. Okay, so what's the next thing? Let me just take it back from I want to explain another thing, which is another keyword, which is I'm so sorry. I want to say, explain another thing, another keyword, which is where clause. So in our where clause, you can just say something like, let me use a use case. So let's try to say, I want to select a thing where it's just like a distinctive feature, but you're trying to be specific about what we are trying to explain. Let's say we have a lot of shih tzu, or we have a lot of apples in different convenience store. So in this case, let's say we have two major two major convenience store. So we have sorry, let me just say the Apple convenience store, and we have the food convenience store. So um these are two convenience store. Now let's say I want to buy Apple from Apple store. So I'll just say select Apple from Apple store where uh no I don't know. Well, let me just explain here. So let me just use this case. I don't think that's actually making sense. Let's just say something like select. What are we trying to select? Let's say you are selecting everything from what's the name of our table? What's the name of our table here? Let me just copy this one. Right. Where where last name. So let's say where gender, because you have quite a number of gender here. So we can just say where gender. I'm not interested in everything. I'm only interested in male gender, right? I'm trying to be specific. So I'll just say where gender, I'm sorry, where gender equals to male, right? So because this is a text, I have to wrap it up with column, with quotation mark. Now that I'm done, add your semicolon, then you can run this. So can you see all the information that you'll be getting here will be only male, and if we have our male. So that's you are being specific about what you want, and that's exactly what SQL is about and what you have done here. And let's say you are trying to count the number of this particular male gender. So now data exploratory has started. They can just count. Let's say you want to count the number of male. Instead of saying count, instead of saying I want to everything, you can just say something like what are you trying to do? I'm trying to count. What are you trying to count? The gender column. Right. So let's run this one again. And it's giving us that in this particular case, we have 1,000, we have 120 male gender, right? So we have something we have count gender. Does not really look straight, right? So we have something we call alias. So once we change the name of this column header, we can just call this one male gender, male number. So let's run it again. You see, we have male number, we have 120. That's quite straight, right? So we have the male number, we have the 120. So now let's just continue. Now let's say you want to do the same thing. We want to look at let's try to run everything so I can now let's say I want to look at how many people have this coming person. I'm expecting one, but I don't know how many people have this one. Let's just say select everything. I just copy this one and just have to select star from right where def test name equals to common. Can you see when you have the one? So that means we now have repetition, no repetition. So I was saying that we have all the columns set out. So you can actually resume this, then you can see you have all the columns set out. You have the ID, first name, last name, email, gender, and company name. You can see these are the columns set out. So let's move on. And let's go back to selecting everything and just copy the first two rows here. So now let's run this one again. So now let's look at another thing. How many, once you look at this gender, okay, the first thing is let's count how many rows of column do we have here. You can just do something like count all the rows here. So can you see I want to count all the rows presently. I actually know, or I predicted it to be 1,000 because I was the one that imported it. So let's just they have 1,000. So it's quite easy for me. But yet now that I know it, we have 1,000 rows. Now let's say I want to do something. Looking at this, like looking at this particular gender here, I want to know how many gender do we have present in this particular company. So let's arrange them alphabetically, right? I want to arrange them alphabetically. So I want to know gender, male will follow female alphabetically. Yes, sorry, female, male, polygender, stuff like that. So we want to do select everything from what's the name of the table, country dot company, right? So select everything, company dot company, then you can just say where, no where. What we are trying to do here is that we are trying to order, we are trying to arrange it alphabetically. So you can just do something like order by what column? We are trying to order by gender. So we have two type of order by, right? So you can order in ascending or you can order in descending. So if it is ascending, you just write ASC at the end. If it is descending, you just write DESC, that's descending at the end. So in this case, I actually want it in ascending order. So I just say order by ascending. Yes. Then you can run this one. So can you see we start from a gender, that's the first one. Can you see? You have our agenda, followed by you have by gender, you have female, followed by you have gender fluid. Wow. You have followed by male. Can you see? Everything is now arranged now. So you can do the same. You can also arrange your company the same way. You can also arrange your company the same way. You can just write something like select, and let's just say something select star from where. Let's say for company.com. So what are we trying to do? We are trying to order. We are trying to order by company. So can you see? We have our avatar here, followed and queue. Can you see everything is arranged alphabetically? So that's how to arrange alphabetically. Now let's say I want to see only I'm only interested in Idel company. Can you see? We have our Idel company here. So let's see, you just write after our form, you just write something like where company name, where company name equals to what? Idel. Now because this company name is in text, so you want to write something like Idel, right? So let's run this. Can you see we have only five. We have only five people that are working in Idel, and that's quite good. Instead of being interested in everything, you can see we can easily fish out people that are working in Idel, and that's how to explore data. You are getting okay. Let's say I'm only interested in Jacqueline, or the people that are working in Idel. I'm interested in them. So those are the things. These are how to write it. Can you see? It's just like you writing in English language. Nothing serious about it. So now let's say uh let me cancel this particular thing. So let's run this one again. So can you see? So now let's say we order by company name and you can see we have a lot of them. But let's say I'm trying to return only the first few rows. Let's say I'm trying to return the first 20 rows out of 100. So I can just say something like limit 20. So let's run this. And you see, when you have 20 rows, if you actually let me count it, you see you have 20 rows. Why we don't have a complete we don't have a sequential ID is because all the company name initially was not arranged alphabetically. So each different company name has different ID. Sorry, different people. Can you see this one? This person has different ID to this person, which is quite normal. Can you see? So we have I'm trying to limit it to 20 now. Now, let's say, instead of having what do you call it, that much number of companies, I can easily see my first 20 words, right? So I can also say, let's say, the one I deleted the other one, so can you see? Because I said limit 20, it does not really affect this one. But let's say I want limit one, that is, return only one row. So the first two, so I'm expecting it to be Jacqueline Conquest. I see. It's only limiting one. So basically, that's how to um that's how to manipulate our data. Can you see they are quite easy, they are quite simple, and that's all. So let's try to do some example again. So before we call it a day. I think now you know when to use select from where order by. Order by is just like you are trying to do something. And let's try to order by. Let me pass to this one. So let's say you are trying to do something like order in descending order. So you can just do yes. So can you see we start from zero, which is quite easy. So yeah, that's basically everything about today. We'll continue in the next class. Can you see? Now today we've learned about the select case, we learned about the form case, form clause, we learned about the where clause, order by clause, and also the limit clause. So yeah, that's where we will stop in today's class. Thank you so much. See you in the next class. Have a good day. Bye.